contacted an ortho specialist, like orthopedic specialist, and he said like, yeah, let's see, let's wait for another 2-3 weeks, and he gave like pain medication and stuff. Took it, and then somehow it reduced a lot, and I think by around October mid, which was like a month since my injury, I was almost all right. But then a week later, it became worse again. So I rushed to him again, and then he ordered an MRI. And by I think early November, sometime around first week of November, it was confirmed that I have 3 bulging discs.
Welcome to Bed, Back, and Beyond, sharing positive stories of recovery from serious back or neck injury. Your host is CK, a fellow champion who draws on her own experience with herniated disc surgery. Join her as she talks with others who have overcome the physical and emotional trauma of a painful injury, and discover for yourself how you can find hope and encouragement in recovery.
Hi, Mahesh. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Bed, Back, and Beyond. Before we talk about your injury, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. So yeah, Mahesh here. I'm currently based out of my hometown, Bengaluru. It's in south of India. But before this, I lived in Sweden for around 2.5 years, and I work as a software engineer. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
How long have you been doing software engineer?
It's been around 6.5 years now.
And in your hobby life, what kind of did you do? Outdoor activities, traveling?
Yeah, so I love travel, and that's one of the main reasons I moved as well. I thought of like exploring whole of Europe, and also I do a bit of photography. So I usually post on social media and like have some photos taken. So yeah, that's mostly what I do on the side.
Okay.
Not that much of a sports person, but yeah.
So then when did you start to know that something was wrong with your back?
Oof. So I actually had the injury twice. So the first time was sometime in 2020. This was right after COVID. So I was still in India, and here there was like curfew everywhere. I couldn't even get out of home for a long time. So sometime around September 2020, I moved a lot of furniture around at home, and then I felt a sharp pain going down my leg on the
Mm-hmm.
left side.
Yeah.
But I was like 23 at that time. I was like, it's just some muscle pain. I just ignored it. But it became very like bad. Like the whole leg became stiff, and then my whole back was stiff. So I thought it's some muscle thing. I gave it like 3-4 days. I was suffering, but I was working from home, so I didn't really feel too much of a problem. So I somehow managed, and then it was still not gone. So I just called up my aunt. She's a doctor.
That's
So
handy.
yeah, definitely. She said it might be a bit more than just a muscle thing. So she told me to contact like a specialist. Contacted an ortho specialist, like orthopedic specialist, and he said like, yeah, let's see, let's wait for another 2-3 weeks, and he gave like pain medication and stuff. Took it, and then somehow it reduced a lot, and I think by around October mid, which was like a month since my injury, I was almost all right. But then a week later, it became worse again. So I rushed to him again, and then he ordered an MRI. And by I think early November, sometime around first week of November, it was confirmed that I have 3 bulging discs.
3.
L3, yeah.
What kind of furniture were you moving?
I still don't know. I still regret it, but it happened. So it was L3, L4, L4, L5, and L5 S1, but only L4, L5, L5 S1 was the worst. It had like nerve root compression. So he said surgery looks like the only option. But again, my aunt wasn't convinced. She was like, no, don't need of surgery. Let's meet a neurosurgeon. So I consulted a neurosurgeon, and then this was almost like end of November by then. And then he said, yeah, at your age, looking at your thing, there are no deficits, nothing required. Let's do physiotherapy. It will go. So around February of 2021, I was completely fine. Like I could sit down, squat, do everything.
Because you did physical therapy?
Yeah, I would say
Okay.
so.
Okay.
Regularly, I used to do, like he had taught me a lot of exercises. So I used to do it at home and then did a bit of yoga as well. By February, I was completely all right.
Wow. So September to February. And was it hard for you to make these appointments with COVID going on?
So there were a lot of steps I had to take beforehand. Like I had to a lot of times have like a negative certificate.
Mhm.
But I think by then the curbs were lifted quite a bit. So I was lucky enough to go to the hospital directly. Except for tests, I didn't have to do much all the time. So I was really lucky in that aspect.
I can't imagine the fear of COVID and then having to deal with
Yes.
such an injury at the same time. Must have freaked you out.
Oh, definitely. I think it freaked out my family a lot more. I was kind of clueless. It helped in my favor, I guess, but they were quite freaked out.
So then February, you were feeling better and you went back to normal living?
Pretty much. I did everything. I even started biking again. So I used to like bike around a bit, a couple of kilometers. It's a bit tough in the city where I live. So I used to go in and around. So I started doing it again. Even started riding my like bike, like, motorcycle, everything. So I was completely fine. And that's why I ended up moving to Sweden by end of 2021. So sometime in November, I moved to Stockholm. I joined a startup there. Everything's amazing. I traveled for 2.5 years. It went really well. But I think beginning of 2024, I started becoming a bit lazier. Like the winter there is quite harsh, you might know. So
Okay.
I was a bit lazy, and then I stopped going to the gym. I stopped exercising quite a lot,
Mhm.
and I took a vacation to visit Australia uh, in August
Isn't it even
of
hotter there?
yeah, but one of my close friends lived there. He was like, "Come, come, come." So I was like, "Okay, let's do it."
Mhm.
So I took like a 11, 12-hour journey by flight. 2 flights, did everything. Everything was fine. By end of August, I went there. But September, I was doing a lot of road trips, and one fine day, by evening, I couldn't get out of the car. So by lunch, it was stiffening up. Like I could feel my back being very stiff. I was scared that it might be the same thing coming again. But I was like, it can't come again. It's been like 3 years since it happened. How can it come back? And then by evening, when we reached back to our like place, I couldn't get out of the car.
Wow. Was it just your back or by the evening did you have like pain down the leg as well?
Pain down the leg, and my whole left leg was stiff again, like completely stiff.
Wow.
And I couldn't even like bow down an inch. So I realized, okay, it must be back. Not a great feeling when I went there to vacation, right?
Right.
And I was also in a country where I didn't know anything.
Right.
Thankfully, my friend was super helpful. So I even visited the emergency there. They just said like, it's some muscle spasm, it will go away. But I was dying in pain. I told them I have a 11-hour flight back. Give me something. So they gave like two or three like pain medication, like literally 3 tablets. I had my return flight to India. I was gonna visit India and then I was gonna go back to Stockholm. So thankfully, in a week from there, I came to India. I somehow survived the flight, and again went to the neurosurgeon. He immediately ordered an MRI. It was confirmed again that it was a proper herniation this time in
Okay.
L5S1, and it was much worse than last time
Mm.
because it had become weak, right? Like the disc had become weak, so it was worse. And then he said, like, like quick recovery, get a surgery done. You will be like back to normal in a few weeks. You can continue. It will heal also well because you're young. But I was in cross minds. He also said, like, if you want to take it, we can wait. There is no emergency. So I had to get back to Sweden because of my visa. So
Oh,
I went back to Sweden in a week's time. Started the process to get a medical appointment there. Went to the GP. They said, let's wait 6 weeks. The whole process took me almost end of February to get an appointment there again to meet a specialist. So the MRI took almost 2 months since I started the process there, and then the specialist appointment took 3 months since I started. So all in all, it was around 6 months since I got a specialist opinion there. But thankfully, between all of this, one of my colleagues recommended me a physical therapist there who was amazing. I was really, I healed almost like 60-70%, I would say. He was really good. And then I exercised everything again. So by the time I met the specialist there, except for the stiffness in my lower back, I was kind of fine. Like pain was there a little bit, but it was all blunt pain at certain points. It was not shooting pain anymore. And then, yeah, I think after that, I even decided to move back to my hometown.
Okay.
Uh, so yeah, but now I would say like 95% all right. Only if I
Okay.
sit for long hours, I get a bit of pain,
Mhm.
but otherwise it's fine.
And did you try anything else like, steroids or a steroid injection?
No, so actually, I was quite scared, to be honest. So that's when I started researching a lot and stumbled across your podcast, right? So I'm super appreciative of it. I saw a lot of people who got healed without anything, and I also got to know how like the process looks like and all. So I was quite convinced that okay, surgery, unless I'm not able to manage daily life, I'm not gonna get it. When people can heal without surgery, I pretty much can. And then secondly, getting like a jab to your spine, I was super scared.
I think I was more scared. I had the spinal injection one time, and I think I was more scared about the injection than I was about the surgery because
Oof. Okay.
somebody just going through the back with a needle. I was like, "Ooh."
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how did it work for you? Like, was it like it came back worse, so you had to get surgery, or what was it like?
So I got the injection and I felt good for 2 weeks, and then after the 2 weeks, the pain just started to come back to the same height that it was before the injection. So when I followed up with the injection doctor, he said, "We can do another injection or we can just go send you to a surgeon." And like I said, I was nervous about the injection, and I wasn't too crazy about getting multiple cortisone injections,
Makes
in my
sense.
body.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just said,
Yeah.
"Send me to the surgeon."
That scare actually put me away, and then I somehow managed to get out of it without that. But of course, like in between, I did take a lot of like muscle relaxants for a period. Especially in Stockholm, the GP said like we usually prescribe like heavy muscle relaxants and painkillers for like 6 weeks before we end up going for other options. So I did take it for like a week, but then I started feeling quite like grumpy and all over the place when I used to take it. I had to work as well, so I stopped them. So yeah, all in all, I guess it worked out fine in
Yeah.
the end.
Do you do a lot of
Yeah.
sitting with your job?
Unfortunately, yes.
Yeah,
As a software engineer, I
right.
used to sit like 8-10 hours straight a day.
Mhm.
But after this injury, second time, right? I've become way too careful now. I try myself the best to not sit if I'm not needed to sit, like except for meetings and stuff.
Mhm.
You might realize I'm standing actually as I speak
Oh,
right
are you?
now. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So I prefer standing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to modify my workstation because I lean over a desk a lot at work.
Okay.
I stand and I
Hmm.
lean over, so I have 2 different stations, and then, the other station is a freezer that I have to reach down into. Um, so
Okay.
I now have a raised desk at my first station so that I can stand
Nice.
straight up all the time. There's not much I can do for the
Wow.
second station, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, but this standing is a lifesaver, no?
I've been doing the job for 20 years and, you never think, "Ah, anything will happen to me, I'm young," and then I turned 40. What do you think it was about your physio that worked so well? Any
Hmm.
ideas?
So I think it's like the reason I reached there in the first place is because I had a very sedentary lifestyle. Like I'm not a very outdoor sports kind of guy. I love travel, but I used to sit a lot, not follow anything much, right? So I ended up there because of that. But I think the recent physio made me realize how important it is to, like, even if your muscles hurt a bit, it's important to stretch and make them relax, right? I used to be stiff all the time. Like, my back used to be stiff. I used to be in general stiff, stressed out quite a bit and all. So he kind of made me realize that I need to work out. I need to relax my muscles. I need to build them up to heal. I think that was the main thing. And then he also took me to the gym, and he personally taught me like what equipments I can use safely. Yeah, and what reps I can do, what weights I can do, how to take it forward. So yeah, this was super super nice, and this is the first time any physio has done this, right? So highly appreciate his this thing, like the way he took it. And he's been in the field for like 30 years now, so he's like very experienced. So I was like super lucky to get him.
Yeah. Which machines did he say you can use at the gym?
Oof. I'm not sure I remember the names, but I
Yeah.
can say like things that don't really put a weight on my lower back, especially those. And I think some of the things he taught me was like, especially like exercises by lying down. So
Oh, okay.
especially like lying down on my face forward, and then like
Mhm.
lifting weights on the side on the bench.
Okay.
And then when I lay backward, I have to lift my hips and my back.
Mhm.
This is one of the main things. And then he also taught me like while sitting, I can like pull down, right? Like pulling down
Pull
weights is
down it.
enough.
Okay.
Yeah, pull down, but not lifting from the bottom.
Right.
Uh, yeah.
Did he give you a weight limit? Like, don't go over a certain amount of weight?
Yes. So my
I was about to
neurosurgeon
say
told me
pounds,
like,
it's probably kilograms, right?
uh, yes, I'm so sorry, but I'll
That's okay.
probably keep it in kgs.
That's fine.
Yeah. So my neurosurgeon clearly told me if you're gonna carry anything on your back, if you're gonna walk long distances, don't go anything above 5 to 8 kgs.
Okay.
And then the physio told me like if you're gonna lift weights, if you're lifting your own body weight, totally fine, do it. But if you're gonna lift extra weights, then start with like 3 to 5 kgs.
Mhm.
See how you feel. If you're feeling a lot of pressure on your back, reduce. If you're completely fine, you feel strong enough, then slowly increase by like half a kg or a kg. So 5 to 8 kgs is my limit.
Okay. Now,
Yes.
have you come up with a routine to make sure you don't get lazy again and stop exercising?
Yes, the second time was super bad. So I think I've learned my lesson. So and also the one other thing both of them suggested, I forgot to mention, right, is yoga and walking and swimming. So these three things they suggested. I have tried all of them, and I can wholeheartedly recommend walking and swimming. Really well, like works really well for me. And Yeah, I walk every day in the morning. Like the first thing I do is like get myself up, go walk a few kilometers, and then do a bit of stretching. Like I do a bit of yoga, and then without doing this in the morning, I don't start anything. Like if I get into my phone or like open my laptop or something, it's not gonna happen. So I
Yep.
make sure I do that.
That's discipline.
Yeah.
Would you say you've learned anything about yourself during this?
That's a bit of a tough one, but I'll probably keep it to like 2 3 points, right? I think one thing I really learned was the second time it happened, I was really scared. Like the first time, I kind of ignored it, right? I didn't even feel that it's so serious. I have to get it checked until my aunt told me to. So the second time, I was very scared. A, because I was in a country where neither I was living nor I had any idea how it's gonna be, right? If this ends up becoming worse, I end up becoming like not able to walk and stuff. So I was really scared. So that made me realize that, oh, like the support system around me matters so much. So that was probably one of the reasons I even moved back home, right? I think it's better to be around people. I realized it. And then secondly, I realized that, yeah, things are not gonna work the way you have thought it will. So in India, it's very easy, right? Like I just like book an appointment with a specialist. I meet them in like a week max, unless they're like super, super, occupied. it's very easy. Sometimes next day. But in Sweden, it took me almost 6 months to meet a specialist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I realized that, oh, things don't work the way you think they do.
No.
Uh,
I spoke to a woman named Adithi who it was living in Sweden, and she got
yeah.
hurt in the summer, and she said all the doctors are
Mhm.
on vacation during the summer in Sweden, so she had to wait quite a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Oh,
kind of trend. And I think if you have private healthcare, it's way faster. Unfortunately, I didn't have a private insurance. So my
okay.
employer didn't take one, and I wasn't aware I need to take one.
Mhm.
So public healthcare is a bit slow, I would say.
Right. Is it public health care in India, or is it private in India?
No, it's fully private. I mean, we do have public healthcare, but it's usually like we don't prefer. We prefer to have like private healthcare.
Okay.
It's much
Okay.
easier to afford here, and it's yeah,
Yeah. I've talked to a few people from the UK as well, and the same thing. It's the public health care, but if they wanna get treated faster, they have to go private and pay for it
yeah,
themselves. Yeah, unfortunately.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. But I've heard in the US it's insurance covers everything. I don't know
insurance
how it
covers
is.
everything? Is that what you heard? No,
I don't know so much.
no. Insurance
Okay.
does not cover everything.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, I pay $800 a month for insurance, and then
Wow.
but I have something called a deductible, which I don't know if
Hmm.
you know what that means. So, like, I have to
Yeah.
spend $7,000 each for me and then my husband before
Wow.
insurance will then take over and
Wow.
start yeah.
That's quite
And
expensive.
there's a million different insurance plans, so one will pay more,
Hmm.
one will pay less, it all depends on what you have. But then you'll still
Wow.
have some specialists will still have a 3-month wait before you can even get to them.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
In India, that's
it's hard
yeah,
to decide which one's better, public or private, because they both have their ups and downs.
yeah. Can imagine. But
Yeah.
that's a long wait. I mean, especially
Yeah.
in that pain, right? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't think there was any way I could have waited how many months you waited and relied on physical therapy. I was in so much pain I couldn't even go to work. Yeah, so but they say a large majority of herniations can heal without surgery. I think it's like 90% or something. Takes
I've
dedication.
heard quite similar. Yeah. But yeah, I think being a bit scared helped me. So I avoided like but of course the pain was horrible, right? Like sometimes I used to just like come off from work in the afternoon. Like I used to stand and work the whole day, but sometimes the pain used to get so bad by like 2, 3 in the afternoon. I just used to come home and then like log in from home, lie down, work. So yeah, there were those horrible days, but I hope they don't come back again.
So where would you say your pain level is now?
So my pain is almost not there in day-to-day basis. It only flares up if I do something really stupid.
Uh-huh.
Like let's say I lift something, or like I do some bad movements like twist a lot, sit a lot.
Yeah.
It kind of comes to like a level 2, but by the next day, if I get good sleep, I'm mostly fine.
That's great. And did they
Yeah.
tell you how big your herniation was? Were they able to tell you?
I mean, I'm so sorry, I don't remember. They did tell me like the measurements and stuff, but I do have like one deficit, or at least I had one small deficit. Like my big toe doesn't have any like power. So when they test it, right, it just goes down. Could have healed by now, but I'm not sure. Uh, but other than that, I have like very little like reflex loss in my left ankle. Other than that, yeah, it's compressing on like the L5S1 nerve root quite a bit.
Mhm.
But yeah, other than that, I don't know the exact numbers.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Mine was L5S1 also. Yeah.
The
It's
worst
very
one,
common.
right?
Yeah.
Always happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, like, what made you think, like, okay, I have to go and get it treated immediately?
I had a little bit of a slow progress. I hurt my back in April, at the end of April, and it was just back pain. But then the pain started to travel, and first it went to the right side, and then of my glute, and then eventually it moved to the left side of my glute. And normally, if you throw out your back, is what we call it in the US, uh, it's usually better in 3 weeks. But April, May, beginning of June, it still wasn't better, and then I started having really sharp stabbing pain in my left glute. And then the end of June is when I rolled over to get out of bed in the morning and got hit with
Oh,
like, the herniation pain.
yeah, yeah.
So it took my husband 2 hours to get me from the bedroom to the living room
Oi,
because I couldn't
I
even
can
stand up.
imagine.
Yeah, yeah, only those who've
Mm,
herniated know that kind of
yeah, right.
pain. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I tried physical therapy, for a
Hmm.
couple weeks. I almost passed out in physical therapy at one point.
Ooh,
Um,
okay.
they were having me do this because I was walking crooked like this. So
Same. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So they have you do this, like, side to side movement,
Yes,
um,
yes.
but I think I had a tear in the dura, and so when I would do the
Ooh.
side to side movement,
Mm.
the pressure in the, canal made me almost pass out, so I had to, like,
Increase.
lay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
So I
horrible.
had to lay
Hard
down.
to, yeah.
So then the physical therapist was like, "I think you need to go back and see your doctor." We tried the injection, and it only worked for 2 weeks. When the injection doctor said, "You should see a surgeon," then I was like, "Fine. Fine, I'll go see a surgeon," because the pain was back to a level 10. So physical therapy didn't help. I almost passed out. The injection didn't help, and I was missing work, and I wasn't getting paid.
That's added unnecessary pressure, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So all those things
that's
together.
hard.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's pretty hard.
Yeah. And it's funny, the herniation was the end of June. My surgery was the end of August. So when I say that, it sounds really fast, right?
Oh,
But it felt like forever. I felt like I was gonna be
yeah.
stuck in this pain and never go back to work, and how were we gonna pay our bills
I,
and all that stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty bad. But I'm glad that you're all right now.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah. It was a tough recovery, but I'm glad I did the surgery because it turns out my disc was glued to the spinal cord with scar tissue. So it would never, come off of there.
They said something similar to me. I think there's a bit of calcification.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Hmm.
so they said like you might have reoccurrences
Mhm.
because it healing fully is not looking likely. But if it heals enough that the calcification doesn't hurt you more, then you will be
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
So I guess it might happen again, but
Mhm.
I don't know. Like maybe with like good exercise, it shouldn't.
Right. Right. And it's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
interesting. I don't know if you've heard this before, but there's a large number of people who walk around with a herniated disc and have no idea because they never
yeah,
have pain. Yeah. So it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
so weird how the body works.
Right? Yeah.
Awesome. So what would you have to say to anyone who is currently in pain with a herniated disc?
Seeing from my own experience and learning from a lot of experiences, right? I would say there is hope. It's not like some of the injuries where it won't heal at all. You have multiple therapy options, right? Everything from it healing on its own to physical therapy, yoga, a lot of other like natural therapy, surgery. So I think this is one such condition which has a lot of hope
Mhm.
than quite a lot of other issues. So I would say like it's good to not lose hope. And worst case, they would do surgery. It's gonna hurt a bit for a longer time, but it should be okay. You will
Mhm.
be able to come to a situation where you will be, manageable every day. Yeah, that's what I can say.
Yeah.
There is hope. There is treatment. Don't lose hope.
Don't lose hope. Thank you so much, Mahesh. I'm so glad you reached out on my website, and I'm so glad to hear that you're feeling so much better without surgery.
Thanks again for having me, and
Yeah.
I really hope you continue this good work.
Oh, thank you. If you are a listener who has a positive story of recovery from a serious back or neck injury, head over to my website, bedbackbeyond.com, and click Share Your Story. I would love to include your voice on the show. Once again, Mahesh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.